So, the PlayStation State of Play happened a little while ago, and I wasn't all that interested. I was at work until I got a ping from a friend telling me to watch and sent me a timestamp. And there I was, on my break, and I got hit with Digimonstory Time Stranger. And to say I was hyped is a fucking understatement. I grew up with both Pokemon and Digimon, but I always found the concepts in Digimon more interesting. A digital partner which changes and adapts to their users' feelings and emotions, be it good or bad. But most of the talk I've seen about the state of play was a resounding meh all around, which is honestly a shame, because it turns the Digimon story series into a trilogy, and a trilogy of all likely be gems. So I'm here to talk about Digimon Story Collection, currently on Steam, being Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory, and why you should play it, and to be excited for Time Stranger that will come out this year. I feel like we need to do just a quick speed run on the history of Digimon, nothing too crazy, just a simple gist of it. Digimon, also called Digital Monsters, was originally a Tamagotchi spin-off, mainly marketed at men, where you take care of a digital monster, train them, evolve them, and just do things you do with a Tamagotchi, but manly. The success of this eventually turned into a merchandising, like the TV show, the original TCG, which got discontinued and revived in the early 2020s, and the topic of this essay, video games. I remember getting Digimon Rumble Arena 2 from an old rental shop, and I played the shit out of it, of getting everything that I could. Digimon follows a simple premise, either an isekai or a digital world leaking into the real world, with the Digimon story series going for the latter. The main gimmick compared to other series, especially Pokemon, is that Digimon are files. Each Digimon is assigned 4 types: data, vaccine, virus, and free type. Digimon are able to evolve depending on items and emotions, while a good and loving tamer will usually have Digimon evolve into vaccines and data types, usually showing virtuous aspects like bravery, courage, or strength. Abusive, neglectful, or emotional tamers, Digimon will evolve into virus types and start to lose their sense of mind, leading usually to death, which isn't usually shown in the show, but in the games, they don't have that limit. But I think that's a good enough summary for Digimon as a franchise. Let's get into the main topics of this video, being a brief plot synopsis with some spoilers, the gameplay and why it's so good, and how the Digivolution mechanics makes every playthrough unique, and then we'll wrap it all up. Both Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memories takes place during the same time, but from the point of view of 2 separate people. The Cyber Sleuth is a person who gets convinced to check out a dark side of Eden, a digital space akin to something like VR chat, with their friends Arata and Nokia, and eventually get attacked by a being called an Eater, and suffer from Eden Syndrome. However, being the main character you are, a unique case being saved by Kyoko, and living in the human world as pure data, being able to travel through security systems and doing all sorts of things, a literal cyber sleuth. As you find out the origins of the disease, the story becomes more complex. As your friends go on their own path, Nokia eventually, with a strong bond, is able to bring Omegamon to the turning points of the story, and Arata's criminal past rears its ugly head as he eventually becomes an anti-hero, while uncovering the truth about the Ghost Boy and how your paths connect. On the other side, Hacker's Memory is a group of misfits working as ethical hackers under the name of Huddy, which is also the name of the internet cafe Ryuji owns, as you follow the main goal to search for who took your online account. However, the story goes on and you acquire your account and the main goals start to turn. You learn more about Jude and the history between Arata and Ryuji in particular, Erika's mysterious illness, the moral situation when it comes to Digimon being programs or real living beings, and of course the events of Cyber Sleuth causing ripples that affect the story, with a certain Digimon being a part of it all. However, the biggest part is how Erika grows as a character, in the game genuinely being one of the most tragic characters in Digimon media. But that's just my opinion. However, one of the coolest aspects in Hacker's Memories is seeing the events that happens off-screen, like the training arc for Nokia to deepen her bond with Agumon and Gabumon, where in the end you witness the birth of a Megamon from a different perspective. And of course the things between Arata and Ryuji, while more secondary characters like Goru, Mikiko, and Yuko get more screen time, especially related with Ryuji and Erika. And that's mainly skimming over the plot. There's still more crazy things that happen on top of the eventual crossing of both the digital and real world, but that's for you to find out, or just watch a summary video, I won't judge. However, the gameplay is so good, I think it might change your opinion on doing that. On the surface, the game does look quite generic. A dungeon crawler with turn-based mechanics, but the more you look, the deeper the gameplay becomes. while completing quests and exploring different areas in Tokyo like Nakano Broadway, Shibuya Crossing, and Ueno Park. You increase your ranks and eventually, depending on your Digimon, get different abilities, the levels of hacking being important for story progression, while things like increasing and reducing enemy encounters are bonuses for completing certain requirements. While Hacker's Memory fixes the issue of slow movement inside the dungeons with a speed boost, both respective characters' abilities fit what they are. The Cyber Sleuth can enter data lines, essentially being a slipstream, and can hack barriers down, while the Hacker is more forceful, giving themselves essentially cheats and brute forcing their way through barriers. But the overworld is only a small aspect of the main part is the Digimon themselves after all. Just like Pokemon, you start with your starter and you go from there. As you encounter more and more Digimon, you collect data from those encounters, which eventually lets you hatch that Digimon, although you can increase the percentage the babies and rookies are fast to get, while the megas are just a cruel. The game incentivizes switching up and evolving as many Digimon as you can. Digimon farms let you passively gain XP, and the game smartly has a memory system, a inbuilt limiter of sorts. You start with a tiny amount of memory and get rewarded with completing side quests and exploring the dungeons. By the halfway point, you can squeeze in 1 or 2 megas while keeping a small team of champions, but that's fine because it supports the game wanting you to de-digivolve to gain bonuses and AP points, as the game makes it basically impossible to get a mega without doing at least one de-digivolve, as you won't be able to gain the required 20 for most of them. Which is the coolest aspect of the system, since you'll be switching so much that the inheritance system will actually activate. As you de-digivolve and try out different Digimon, you gain their abilities and moves when you level up, and will carry on to the next stage, as long as you can get it before they evolve. This does come with the minor issue of the skill menu getting too cluttered, but that's merely just a small cost for having so much versatility. But we'll talk more about Digievolution in the next section. As mentioned previously, Digimon are 4 types: Vaccine, Data, Virus, and Free. Vaccines break down viruses while viruses destroy data, and data replaces vaccines, while also having a free type which just does flat damage and are usually either tanks or just glass cannons. On top of that triangle, there's also a rock paper scissors system as well, which lets you multiply and halve damage. Think of it as duo types in Pokemon. While Reshiram would be quad resistant to grass, Swampert isn't as lucky being quad weak to it. Cyber Sleuth works on the same mechanics, on top of also having abilities and signature moves for your Digimon. If a Digimon who's a virus attacked a vaccine Digimon, it would only do 0.5. Unless the type of the move is super effective, then it does 0.75. On the opposite end, if you're a virus type using a dark move and a light data type, it does triple damage, while free types at most will do 1.5, if moves are super effective on the other Digimon. It's a rather simple system, but it's given even more depth with status effects, especially Bug, which swaps the digital type around while unaffecting free types. But that's the gameplay in a nutshell. Go out and explore the digital world and the real world and amass a team of misfit Digimon to save the day. But getting those Digimon is really cool, and I wanted to talk about that since it's the most important part of a Digimon game after all. With Digievolution being an important mechanic in the games, it is not a surprise that they had to ace that aspect, and I generally believe they have. Each Digimon have a requirement to evolve. Once you fulfill those requirements, they are, well, able to evolve. And once you are rewarded with AP points and a stronger Digimon. But saying it just that and calling it a day isn't right. Because once you get that higher ranks, and especially with the special Digimon, the game has changed. Digimon that require special items start to show up. Armor Digimon can't evolve unless you have the key item, usually obtained by beating a tamer with that item for Flandramon or the post-game content for the Royal Knights, in Cyber Sleuth or for Lucamon mid-maxing to hell and back, until you're deemed worthy to use him. Depending on how hard the requirements are, usually depends on their strength. There's also DNA Digievolution. At the cost of losing one Digimon, you obtain usually a stronger beast. In the case of Pyeldramon, which eventually, after a lot of hard work, turns into Imperial Dramon, which he himself is unique, having 2 separate forms that focus on a specific stat respectively. In a way, it's that meme, the one where it's a random images next to each other saying Digimon evolutions. In a lot of ways, it's not wrong. Of course, specific Digimon fit into criteria. Usually the more plant-based Digimon will usually stay plant-like, or turn into insects rather than dragons. But it still can happen. The sky's the limit, especially when you have little knowledge. Watch as this little goober turns into this, which then he can turn into this, and then this. It's pretty wacky, but that's kind of the charm of Digimon, and why I think people should give it a chance for that alone. But let's wrap this video up. before we finish, I just wanted to say that I love Digimon. I loved it when I was a kid, and I grew up loving it even more. And that's why I want more people to share the enjoyment that I've had throughout the years, from a simple creature collecting series that on the surface looks like your average Pokemon ripoff, but deep down, it's something really special, and that's why I think you should give it a try on sale. It's 100 hours of content for only $10. It's honestly a steal, but even if I didn't fully convince you to buy the game, you should at least give the series a shot. Digimon Tamers and the original, even the reboot, got some great selling points for anyone that wanted to give it a shot. But if you're gonna take it seriously, I 100% recommend watching the sub, as the dub was made during the 4Kids era.
I think he's a vicious monster, a threat to society. He's a threat to society!
But regardless of all that, thank you so much for watching this video. I really love JRPGs as much as Digimon, so the fact that I can talk about not only both of them, but a new game coming out this year gets me honestly kind of giddy. But regardless, if you found me yapping interesting, then please leave a like and a subscribe to hear more of the hot air come from my mouth. And that's all I've got. Have a wonderful day.